to seem greedy, but seeing how the A-Line train finally has its act together after 2 years, what are the chances RTD can get the long-delayed train to Arvada and Wheat Ridge up and going? That is a frequently asked question that we receive. So our Steve Steger got neck deep in red tape to find you an answer.
If you want to know how Arvada feels about its incoming train, just look at the words scrawled on the sign at the Old Town Station. This station is not ever going to open.
That sounds about right.
Mandy Putnam stopped me today to see if I had anything positive to report because her husband is really hoping to use that train to commute to work.
We moved in December and we were told that it would be here soon, and now it's July and it still isn't working.
Here's what I told her, what RTD tells me. The G line uses the same crossing technology as the A line to the airport. So now that state regulators have approved the A line crossings, they are waiting for approval from the federal government to start testing on the G line. Once that testing is cleared, RTD and the train's operator will start a 21-day passengerless full schedule test. If the train passes that test, then RTD will set an opening date for the G line.
We definitely plan to have the G line in operation and open for service before the end of the year.
So RTD thinks it will have the train in service by the end of 2018. They say this as we near the 2-year anniversary of when the G line was supposed to launch.
I think that RTD and Denver Transit Partners are kind of feeling like they can't push too hard against the FRA. Well, I want to push against the FRA, and I want our citizens to push against the FRA.
Arvada Mayor Mark Williams says this is the #1 question he gets at the grocery store, and he is exhausted by it.
I'm mad as hell, and I don't want to take it anymore.
But perhaps the beginning is in sight for the train that's become affectionately known as Arvada's unicorn.
I have not seen the train go by.
It's kind of become like a mythical creature.
Yeah, is it even real?
So the Federal Railroad Administration, the FRA, has to give the G line the approval to start the testing process. They didn't respond to our request for a comment today, but RTD says it's pretty confident this train will be carrying passengers before the end of the year. And Kyle, I've got to ask you, have you heard that one before?
I have heard that one before. And of course, we know this is a two-step process. Trains running with horns and then the train runs silent. This train passes a lot more houses in the A-line, so if it's running with horns, people are going to be ticked.
Right, and there's a chance. So they're in the process of trying to get the FRA to start looking at those applications for quiet zones. There's a chance that once the G line starts, that quiet zone process might already be approved. But it all just depends on how quickly the feds respond to things. It was interesting, too, talking to some people in town today. Mandy there said that they moved there for the train. The train will be in place. Can you imagine some of the conversations people are having with their landlords right now saying, you promised, you marketed it this way, the train was supposed to be here and it's not, lived here for so long.
Or businesses that took out loans expecting people to be coming in on that train. Just a lot of lives upset by this, which is why it's a big deal and we talk about it here. Steve, thank you. The truck fire that shut down I-25 during rush hour last night, this huge mess, it began with the driver slamming on his brakes, something we've all done on the interstate. But that is when a load of hay slid forward and touched the hot exhaust pipes on the back of the semi. Instant fire. Driver got out safely. The whole thing allowed us to see how, though, firefighters can put out a fire in an area where hydrants are not immediately handy. They filled up a water tender, a portable water tank that can carry 3 times the water of one of their standard trucks. Our area's latest recycling plant fire was the other mess du jour at this time yesterday, and firefighters are still back out there today working on hot spots at that facility on York Street near Riverside Cemetery north of downtown. Firefighters still couldn't tell us how the junk caught fire. No one was hurt. The sudden collapse of Porter Hospital's organ transplant program is sending hundreds of Porter patients scrambling to find a new hospital to give them a shot, in some cases, at staying alive. Porter says they have to shut down their transplant program due to a staffing shortage. Porter could not explain to us why they appear to be the only local hospital transplant program that is having a staffing issue. Porter says this is not related to the issue with sterilization of equipment at the hospital lately. One transplant patient told us he found out about the shutdown of Porter's program from the news. Presbyterian St. Luke says it has taken in 50 of Porter's transplant patients, and they're trying to move them along in their program as quickly as possible. Porter says it plans to restart transplants in 6 to 12 months and would not say if they believe that their shutdown will result in deaths. Our next question comes from a viewer named JP, who says that his 7-year-old daughter needs 3 EpiPens for her nut allergy. She needs one for home, school, after school. Kaiser told him they could only have one due to a shortage. He says, my knee-jerk reaction was the pharmaceutical industry's playing hardball because of the pricing debacle from a while back. But I wanted to get the facts first. All right, JP, so we're talking about the facts of the shortage and then potential motivations. Here's what we can tell you. The FDA did confirm that there is an EpiPen shortage. They say that it's a manufacturing delay. I can't tell you if there's any funny business that goes into that. The manufacturer is Mylan. Mylan also says they're having an intermittent supply constraint. They emailed today to say that they're willing to help patients find different pharmacies that may have alternatives. So if this impacts you, check out the next Facebook page. We have all the contact information there to get hooked up with that. We reached out to the state health department as well as the State Board of Pharmacy to see how many Coloradans may be impacted by the shortage. We haven't heard back. Lieutenant governor. It's like being governor, just without the responsibility, the attention, the glory, the blame. In a lot of ways, it sounds a lot better than being governor. It was no coincidence today that Republican gubernatorial candidate Walker Stapleton introduced a former Navy pilot as his running mate in front of a Navy fighter jet. That is State Representative Lang Sias from Arvada. He served in the House since 2015. What, you say, is he going to do as lieutenant governor? I don't know, beats us. Governor Hickenlooper turned the job into the state's CEO. We are curious what Sias thinks his role will be.
I do believe that having served for 4 years in the legislature and done it in a bipartisan fashion, I think there is probably a role for me to be played there in terms of working with legislators from both parties and both chambers on legislation that Governor Stapleton would be interested in.
Sias himself is bipartisan in a way because he's been a Democrat as well as Republican as well as unaffiliated. So when did Stapleton pick his running mate? Last week we told you about the state law that nobody ever knew about and probably still doesn't care about. The fact that candidates for governor have to pick a running mate no later than 7 days after the primary. That is why Democratic candidate announced Diane Primavera as his number 2 last week. Stapleton's campaign pointed out the law says you just have to pick him. You don't have to tell anybody. You can keep it a secret. So did Stapleton actually pick his running mate last week? And does anybody really care?
Lang has a day job as an international FedEx 777 pilot, but we've had this conversation over a number of weeks, and we had planned to let everybody enjoy their 4th of July holiday with their friends and families and make this announcement soon after.
Stapleton, Sias, Polis, Primavera. Clearly candidates couldn't compete with awesome alliteration. Here's Marshall.
Alliteration, awesome. Bush cousin versus Boulder. Conservative, congressman. Debating democracy. Enough of the election. Face it, this is fun. Getting to be governor. Hey, that's hick. Ivy League ideas. Geez, this is jazzy. Kinda corny. Liberal lefties. Married to MAGA. Nerdy nexters. Opposite opinions. Polis Primavera. Quick question. Ready for their representation? Stapleton Sias. TikTok. Unaffiliateds, you're up. Valuable vote. Why waste it? X-ray xylophone. Yes, you. Zoinks. I'm Zellinger.
The entire day on that. That was his entire day. You're going to hear candidates for governor talk about inclusiveness for all of our state. Yet both of those candidates for governor, when they had the chance to add to their ticket a lieutenant governor from another part of Colorado, they instead just stuck to the predictable Denver-Boulder area. Polis went a stone's throw from Boulder to Broomfield for his running mate. Stapleton looked less than 20 miles north from his Greenwood Village home to Arvada for his number 2. We asked both of them what message that sends to Coloradans outside the metro area.
Somebody who's committed to helping Colorado and having a holistic view.
I represent parts of western Colorado already, Eagle County, Grand County.
As treasurer, I've traveled to all 64 counties in Colorado.
In La Plata County or Mesa County.
In the San Luis Valley, in Grand Junction, up north in Fort Collins.
Denver and Jefferson County and Boulder County.
La Junta and in Lamar.
People just want what's best for their loved ones and themselves.
And we will continue to spread that message of opportunity.
They basically just said the same thing. It was completely interchangeable. Here are my thoughts on this. Perhaps we put too much emphasis on where somebody is from. But I think it's undeniable that parts of our state feel left behind. I grew up in a rural area in another state, a rural area that felt ignored on a regional and on a state level, felt talked down to and marginalized, felt cut out of the prosperity that others were enjoying. And that is the story of Colorado these days. But the next chapter in our political story is going to be written by politicians who live in the Denver-Boulder metro area. And we'll still have to convince the rest of Colorado that they care. We talk all the time about the cost of housing right in and around the city. How about northern Colorado? Deals to be had there? Some pretty eye-popping numbers next.
A little break from the heat and maybe some rain. We've got a lot of moisture moving into Colorado from the west. An area of low pressure bringing some of that moisture into southwestern Colorado. Too much of a good thing. Flash flood advisories there in Denver. Hot, dry with another day and high temperatures above average. Some triple-digit highs across the eastern plains and not much relief way up high. But things will be changing tomorrow. We've had this easterly flow aloft bringing these thunderstorms the opposite direction from the east to the west here in the metro area. In southern Colorado, that southwest plume of moisture that has prompted the potential for some heavy rain, well, it's starting to shift north and east. And that means that Denver has a chance of seeing rain from storms both Thursday and Friday. And with the cloud cover and a weak upper air disturbance coming in, we may actually see some slightly cooler temperatures both tomorrow and Friday as well. So right now, all the moisture out across western Colorado, but by this time tomorrow might be a different story here in Denver. Warm, dry 64 tonight. Tomorrow's high right at 90. Good chance of rain from storms Thursday and Friday. Friday may be even cooler. Warm and dry Saturday and then 80s to kick off the new week with a good chance of rain from storms, especially Sunday night into Monday, Kyle.
Kathy, thank you. The price to buy a home in Denver is the frequent focus of headlines. It kind of crowds out the equally interesting news about the rising price of homes in northern Colorado. July numbers from Denver area realtors show the median sale price of a home in the metro area is nearly $452,000, up about 7% over last year. Head north to the Loveland-Berthoud area, and they've seen even greater growth since last year, a 9.5% hike to a median sales price of $389,000. North still to Fort Collins, where home buyers are paying more, a median of $420,000, up 6.4% in a year. Greeley is a bargain by comparison, but buyers there are still paying a median of $352,000 for a home, 5% more than they were paying in Greeley last year. You people are lined up out the door for the chance to tell someone, you've crossed a line. But this is the first time that it kind of seems like bragging. Parents in Highlands Ranch came home to find their 16-year-old son Owen had done this. Dad Drew emailed to say he didn't know whether to be angry or impressed. What's that line from Ron Burgundy and Anchorman? How'd you even do that? I'm not mad. That's amazing. Looks like there's about 2 inches of clearing on either side of the car. That took some time and some skill. Send us the photos you think we should see. Email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag #HeyNext. You have solved a mystery for a police officer and reuniting with a lost love at age 97. Next. So many great loves in this world are eventually separated by time. Time and the toll that it takes on our bodies. A 97-year-old woman in Lafayette is being reunited with a love of hers, a passion. Tom Cole provides the words and pictures.
Hi, handsome.
Finding a good relationship
Yeah.
in a barn may not seem like the best place for a 97-year-old woman.
So glad you could come back.
But for Annalise Schultz, the connection she's made here
Yeah, he's very affectionate.
has brought her back.
I think he's happy to see you again.
This 11-year-old thoroughbred named Kip is sweet on Annalise, and she's sweet on him.
Oh.
It makes sense, really. She grew up with horses.
She still has that posture and balance and grace.
I just saw a picture of you on a horse.
Oh, you did?
Time has passed, though. Her connection to horses faded until someone let it be known about a request.
So the social worker usually will make a request to our volunteer department, and he said, Ginger, I have a patient and she would like to see a horse.
And with that,
we made it happen.
They made the connection. Her caregivers recognize she has time left and deserves to be happy.
It doesn't surprise me.
Her daughter also sees the importance of the connection, but knows it may be short-lived.
Maybe this morning she didn't remember what it was like last time seeing the horse, but I think subconsciously she remembered that connection.
There was no greater joy. Our patient is pretty reserved with those day-to-day visits, and rightly so. And to see that smile break free, and I didn't know who fell in love more, this horse or this patient.
A relationship made from a simple gesture rekindles a connection.
Goodbye, sweetheart.
For Next, I'm Tom Cole.
Last time Annalise was able to ride a horse was about 5 years ago. While that is out of the question for her now, her caregivers at True Care are hoping that she'll be able to make another visit to the stable. A Littleton police officer casually dropped mention of a mystery in his life on Next. And wouldn't you know, you helped him solve it. We profiled Officer David Ford as one of our good ones. He's the guy who started a program to provide Christmas gifts to kids in Littleton who don't have them. He, of course, deflected the praise, deflected to an officer who had inspired him when he was young, an Officer Ritchie, who he thought used to work for Lakewood PD, worked in the DARE program. Officer Ford mentioned he had no idea where his role model is today. But Next viewers knew. They knew that Officer Ritchie is now retired from Lakewood PD, lives in Michigan. He's now been in touch with Officer Ford, and when he visits Colorado in the fall, they plan to meet up. Hey, speaking of the good ones, and they're almost all good ones, a brief word of gratitude for the 5 Denver police officers honored today for what might not immediately sound like police work: mowing and cleaning up a Vietnam veteran's yard, befriending an elderly woman caring for her husband who has dementia, replacing a set of stolen jumper cables from an older person's car, and buying gifts for a single mom who had nothing to give her son on Christmas. Our thanks today and every day to the good ones. A Next viewer spotted a sign outside a hospital that suggests your prognosis is poor. Next. It's a sign that you might want to consider a second medical opinion before going to that hospital, because the sign spotted by Next viewer Mark Conlon in Vail suggests you aren't leaving that one alive. No outlet, folks. I get what they're doing here. I'm just wondering if maybe those signs could be put on 2 different poles. Send us the signs you see next at 9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. Said it before, I'll say it again. This program did not set out to build an army of dancing babies as viewers of the future, but it's just so happened over the last 2 years. Tonight, we meet the grandson of Next viewer Tim Spence.
Okay. More Americans watch NBC News than...
I know. Here it comes.
Tonight on Next.
The day they take this program off the air, we are at least going to be able to say that we have helped children's motor skills. Finish with your feedback. Jill Lennar writes in, I've waited a long time for the G line to Arvada. I don't think it's going to happen. I feel sorry for the businesses along the line that were depending on the extra traffic. Jill, I do think it's going to happen. It's just going to take time like the A-line, and I, too, feel sorry for those businesses that were making an investment. Michael Lamb says, is Steve Stager wearing one of Kyle's jackets? It's too big for him. Steve's lost some weight, and he's going to be embarrassed that I pointed that out on TV. And Mark says, dang, Kyle, your jacket is offending my eyes. Didn't we just talk about getting offended about everything? See you next time.